Hello and welcome to an exciting episode of Starside Chat. Joining me is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
And we are talking, this is the big E3, or pre-E3 show. I'm the other host, Zach Owens, and we're pretty excited to talk about it. We're going to kind of go through the outline of streams and everything this week. We're going to talk about everything we hope to see or expect to see, maybe give some predictions about what we're hoping to see at E3. Very exciting time. It's like gamer Christmas, basically.
It's the best time of the year. It's my favorite time of the year. Last year, it did not happen.
Yeah, that was a big bummer.
There was like a kind of an effort, but everything was so stretched out. Like there was an Ubisoft show, but it didn't happen until like July, I feel like. Whereas everything is back to normal, somewhat contained within this like week-long period, and it's great.
Technically the 12th through the 15th, but we've already had some streams. There was one this morning as we're recording this that showed off a bunch of indie games that looked pretty cool. And then there was also that PlayStation Horizon stream that happened. We'll get into that. And then there's some stuff that's going to happen later after that June 12 to 15 time period where there's like an EA Play scheduled for like late July. So like it's going to be kind of happening throughout the summer, it seems like. But let's, do we want to start with the news or do we want to start with what we're playing before we get into the big E3 talk?
I think let's get into just what we've been doing recently because the bulk of this show is going to be E3 related and news related.
Well, I guess I'll start off then. I've been playing Biomutant. There's not a next-gen release for it, so I've been playing the PS4 version on PS5, and I'm enjoying it. I played a bunch of it last night, and it's just one of those like open-world games where you can just sort of get lost running around finding stuff. There's a lot of looting that happens in the game, so you're just finding loot all the time, and there's like a crafting system, so you're sort of breaking down items you don't need and upgrading stuff and equipping different armor sets. It's been getting kind of mixed reviews. It's sort of like a 6 to 7.5 a lot of the time when I see reviews for the game, and that's probably fair. There's like some performance issues here and there, but it's been running pretty well on my PS5 actually. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think like the narrator maybe talks a little bit too much, and the sort of animal characters, it's very quirky. I kind of like it that way though. A lot of people have sort of complained about some of that. Just because like the language they use is a little bit like kind of Dr. Seuss, so it's a little bit gobbledygook Rhymey type of things.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind because that's just like, I don't know, it's a style. But yeah, I think it fits for the world, which is very bright and vibrant. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic world, but it is like super green and vibrant. So I like the look of the game as well. The combat is sort of good, not great. There's like a shooting mechanic to it. So you have like a gun, you have like a melee weapon, and you have like magic abilities. And you can sort of pick a class and sort of lean into one of those three. But it's sort of that Skyrim thing of like you can just sort of get points and put them wherever. And so even if you sort of start out leaning into magic, you can sort of build into more of a melee character just over time if you want to. So I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying it. I don't have too many problems with it, but I can see why people are sort of mixed on it.
I mean, I've seen gameplay of it. And it looks beautiful. Just like a ton of particle effects, it seems like. But I haven't really, like, what's the gameplay loop? It seems like you're just encountering groups of enemies. Are you trying to, like, capture positions or...
Yeah.
Like, is there a narrative story?
There is. So it does kind of get into you as a character and sort of where you came from. It almost seems like you've lost your memory because you keep, like, encountering this character that will sort of take you back into a memory, and you'll sort of maybe remember about your parents, or you'll remember training, or like these bullies that you encountered as a child. And so it kind of goes through the main character, but also there's like a morality system, so you can be either dark or light, or sort of a mix of both. And depending on which of those you choose to sort of align yourself with, there are different factions that are either dark or light or a mix that you can sort of join up with. And if you do that, you then sort of go around the map, and it's sort of your job to take out the other encampments, basically. And so you're sort of trying to, it's almost like a conquest type of thing, where you're going around taking over the other factions, basically. And so there's that side of it, but there's also these 4 world eaters that you're out there to take out. They're just like big monsters that are causing a lot of trouble for everybody. They're really dangerous, and so you have to go through these sort of quest lines to build yourself up, or like get some sort of new gear or equipment. Like the first one I took out, I got like some sort of mech suit, basically, that I got into. So that was pretty cool. And then I'm working on the second one, and I got like some sort of watercraft where I could like, it's like a sort of like a jet ski that I can go around on the water sections. So that's pretty cool. And then I don't know if it's a spoiler to say, but there's like some sort of thing you're building up to where you're, because it is like a post-apocalyptic world, and it seems like things are sort of building to like a collapse of the world, basically. You're sort of almost building like an arc to sort of escape impending doom, but you only have so many slots available for like who can survive the world. So you're sort of, as you're encountering different characters and talking to them and doing little side quests for them, you get to sort of choose who you want to take with you on this sort of arc. So there's several different elements happening all at once. And maybe that's partially why it's getting some mixed reviews, is because it doesn't always feel super focused, because you're like, well, why do I care about these factions if I'm like dealing with this sort of apocalyptic thing that we're building up to, which I get, but also like, I don't know, it's just fun to the Far Cry thing of going through and clearing out an enemy encampment. So
I don't hate that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it. Like I said, I can see why people might be mixed on it, but like none of the big complaints that I've heard or read about it are bothering me at this point. So I'm not against it. But it wouldn't be like. Sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna say it wouldn't be the first like 7 that IGN has handed out that I have enjoyed anyway. Like,
do you think you're gonna go all the way?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read, if you kind of mainline the main story, it's not a super long game. But if you choose to like try to go around and do all the side quests and all of that, which are everywhere, by the way, like pretty much everybody you talk, not everybody you talk to, but every village you go to, there's probably at least 1 or 2 people you can talk to who will give you some sort of quest that you can do. So it's very much that like open world thing of just like running around doing a ton of different quests, and they're not all like super amazing writing or anything, but it's stuff to do, which is why it's like sort of a great podcast game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I'll try to get through the main story for sure. I don't know if I'll do all the side quests, but
I've not heard of Scarlet Nexus.
I think you should definitely look this game up. It is coming to PS4 as well if you don't have a PS5, but there's a demo out right now. It's very anime. I kind of like the art style of it, but the combat is the really interesting thing. It's been a little bit of time since I played it, so it's not super fresh in my memory, but you sort of have these different allies with you that you can sort of borrow a little bit of their like power from, and so you're like one character, when you dodge, will let you sort of go through objects, so you can sort of find different paths through the world that way. And one character you can borrow like an overshield type of thing that makes it so you don't take any damage. And another one you can borrow like fire damage, so when you attack, you deal fire damage. And I don't know, there's different things like that you get. And so the way you sort of combine all of those together as you're fighting gets really interesting. And yeah, you have... It's hard to explain because you are also sort of doing combos, but there are these button prompts that come up that you'll do, and he'll do like a crazy animation. I don't know. You have to look it up and play it.
It's like a God of War type thing.
Not particularly. Like I said, it's really hard to explain. You almost have to like see it. I tried to record some gameplay. Recording gameplay with the PS5 is going to be tough because I don't have a capture device for a 4K thing. So I tried to record it directly onto the console, which you can do. So I'll see if I can work out something that way. But otherwise, I mean, you can always just download a free demo and try it out. There are 2 different playable characters, and they're different characters. It's not just like a gender swap. So I don't know if that makes it so that the story would be different if you play it through as both characters. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but it's definitely an interesting game that I recommend checking out because it's pretty cool. At least what I played of it, I really enjoyed. But it is coming out soon, and there are like 8 other things coming out. So it's going to be a crazy month in terms of game releases. But this one's definitely on my radar in a big way after playing the demo.
Where are you at in your Mass Effect playthrough?
I've been playing along with the min-max deepest dive on Mass Effect 1. So they just did their second episode where you clear those 3 planets that you go to after sort of the intro.
Yes.
And so you go add Liara to your group and you fight Matriarch Benezia.
Yep.
And there's one other place you go as well. So I've done that stuff. I have not
plant
gone.
Place.
Yeah, that big plant, whatever that is. I've done that stuff. I have not gone to Vermeer yet, which is, I think, going to be part of their next episode that they do in like a week or 2. So yeah, I've been kind of spacing it out that way, which has allowed me to have time to play stuff like Biomutant. So. But yeah, I'm still really enjoying that game. I put up a video on our YouTube channel about it, so check that out. It also has a real brief unboxing of that legendary cache.
That helmet is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. So check that out.
Well, Jedi Fallen Order was the free game on Stadia recently, so I claimed it, and I have been checking it out. I'm not super far into it, but it's pretty fun. I'm playing it on the easiest setting because I don't super like Souls-like games where the combat is super difficult. But it's pretty good. It's pretty cinematic. The puzzles are pretty easy. The map is easy to figure out. Did you ever play Fallen Order?
I started it when it came out because I had Origin Premiere, so I was able to download it for free.
Oh, yeah.
So I did start it, and I got kind of turned off because of how difficult it was, because I got to I don't even remember where I was. Like I had other stuff I was also trying to play at the time, so I was sort of mixed on whether I actually wanted to play it anyway. But I got to a point where there were these like 2 animals. They were like rams basically, and they would just run into me and knock me over and take out pretty much all my health. And I was like, I'm not even fighting like boss enemies or actual bad guys. These are just random wildlife that are killing me. Like, this is probably not going to be fun once I get into the actual game. So I kind of like tuned out a little bit after that, but I should maybe give it another shot.
I mean, so I feel like there's like 6 different difficulty tiers, and I'm not even playing on easy. I'm playing on the one above that. That's just called like cinematic. So it's like fairly difficult to die unless I like jump off a cliff, which I do a lot. But it's pretty fun, I have to say. I don't know if there's ever going to be. I assume if this, I don't know how well this game was received, but
I think it was received really well. Like I think it got a lot of positive reviews and good reception from.
We'll do
gamers.
like predictions a little bit later when we start talking about E3, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was received well, if this got some sort of sequel. Because I have heard that the ending of this game is really crazy. And who knows? I mean, since the actor who plays the main guy, what's the guy's name? Cal something? Cal Kessel or something like that?
That sounds right. Kessel, I don't know.
He since he's like a real dude, he could at some point like get his own Discovery show or something if people are really into this character and look exactly like he does in the game.
True.
So who knows? I mean, they're really blowing up all those like Star Wars shows right now. So
they are. Yeah, they could definitely do like a show based on that or like some sort of spin-off for Disney Plus. And they've got the actor to look exactly like him, so no problem there.
Here's a crazy prediction. At the is EA doing a show? I haven't looked at the wonderful list.
EA Play is going to happen in July 22nd.
Oh, that's disappointing. But what if at EA Play they reveal a show that is Fallen Order 2? Like you think it's going to be the game, but then it's actually a live action Disney Plus show. I feel like that would get some interest, some like good traction.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did a show based on that game series, but not necessarily like the second thing is the show and not a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see that happening. I did actually write that in.
Really?
To our EA Play discussion. I put Fallen Order 2 with a big question mark next to it. So, that is something we'll get to here in a little bit. But, anything else you've been playing?
Real quickly, I've not been playing this, but I've been watching super old Jackie Chan movies recently with my girlfriend. And they're very good. I forgot that this was a thing, but every Jackie Chan movie ends with a montage of all the times he seriously injured himself.
Yeah. They're outtakes and times he's injured himself.
So I watched these two movies, and actually as an experiment, Zach, I'd like for you to tell me which of these movies you think is the first one and which you think is the second one.
Okay.
One of these movies is called Army of God 2, Operation Condor. One of them is called Operation Condor 2, The Armor of Gods. One of these is a sequel to the other one.
I'm going to guess Armor of the Gods is the second one.
Wait.
It's pretty telling that even you don't know.
Armor of the Gods 2, Operation Condor is in fact the sequel?
Sequel?
Yes. Yes, it is.
When did these come out?
And then Operation Condor 2, The Armor of the Gods is the original. That came out in 1986, and the sequel came out in 1991. And both are great. Those are the first two movies in a trilogy, the third of which didn't come out until like 2016. But it's this character that Jackie Chan invented. He like wrote, directed, and starred in these. And he's called the Asian Hawk in the movies. Although in the second one, they just call him Jackie. But he's this weird Indiana Jones character that is not about putting things in museums. He's solely stealing things from natives to sell them for lots of money. Like both of the movies start with him just straight up stealing stuff from very racist caricatures of native people in like Africa. And he doesn't like, he's not like, oh, I'm going to put this in a museum. He straight up brings it to auctions both times and is like getting cash. And he has weird gadgets. Like this movie is like, since it's like late 80s, early 90s, he has crazy gadgets that are insane and don't make any sense. But they're both great. They're both great movies. If you can check them out, they're free on Crackle, which is apparently the place where you can watch a majority of Jackie Chan movies right now.
Really?
Yeah, because like on Google Play, it'll say like, "Well, do you want to watch this on the only way you can watch it is on Crackle, really," and then it takes you to that app. But yeah, both of those are really good movies, and I had only ever seen the second one. Maybe you've seen the second one. I don't know why I saw it as a child. Maybe it was on TNT or something. But the second one starts with him stealing from natives and then getting in a giant bubble. And the bubble, it's one of those things where you get in like the inside of the bubble and then you can roll around in it by walking, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then he falls off a cliff. And then he gets contracted by this guy to find all this Nazi gold in Egypt, maybe? It's unclear. It's some desert. But it's a crazy movie. And the first one is also very crazy. Both of them are highly recommended by me.
I don't think I've seen either of those movies.
Very, very good. Free on... and they're... I don't know why this is the case with a lot of old Jackie Chan movies, but he somehow got in charge of bringing them to America or something, because he is the only person that is dubbed in his own voice. Like, everyone else is like... is dubbed by like a crazy British person and has a weird accent. But whenever Jackie Chan talks, it is him speaking in English. So he has a little bit of an accent. And I don't know why that's the case, but it's great.
That sounds about like my memory of all old Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah. He's a great guy, and I love Jackie Chan, and everyone should like Jackie Chan. Okay, we should get into E3.
People in Hong Kong do not like Jackie Chan.
Why not?
That's maybe the only place in the world. He has a bad reputation for like being not a great guy there. But everywhere else, he's beloved. And I still appreciate his movies despite that.
Let's talk about some news before we dip completely into E3.
Okay, so I don't know how much you know about this. Steam potentially making a Switch-like mobile gaming PC. Would you get one of these if they released it?
I don't know if I would. I like the idea of a Switch-like thing where I could drop... The thing is, though, like, a lot of the games I play on Steam, I like to play with a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Like, I mean, there's definitely some stuff that I have played on Steam with a controller plugged into my computer, but... I mean, this is a good option. I was very pro those like Steam machines when they came out, and my brother actually got one and uses it all the time. But I would want to guess. I guess I would want to see what it looks like before anything, and also the price. If it's like crazy expensive, if it's like $300, I'm probably gonna decline purchasing this. What about you?
I think I probably would prioritize other consoles before something like this. Agree. Well, and like. Will they have detachable Joy-Con-like controllers, and will they just be like that Steam controller that had that weird like touchpad thing that sort of replaced the mouse, I guess? But a lot of questions about it. It seems kind of like a cool idea, just being able to take your Steam library on the go, and maybe you would only use it for like specific games or specific types of games, but like... I don't know, just being able to have that on the go does seem like a really cool thing.
If they have invented a way, like a cool new ergonomic way to manipulate mouse cursor that is not a mouse, I don't know how they would do that. But if they've invented a way for like me to easily click around on a mobile device, that's interesting to me. And I would maybe take a look at that, but that's presupposing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. There is a part in here where they're like, Valve is not going to slap an entire QWERTY keyboard onto the system. So, I mean, not surprising, but I mean...
Well, there's games like Escape from Tarkov, which I've not played, has like a million buttons to press because there's a million things you can do. And I feel like that would not easily be ported over to a mobile platform.
Well, I assume it would only work with games that have controller support.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
I do wonder if it would like lock out some of your Steam library if there was not controller support.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I mean, even then, like I feel like Steam would have a much larger library of games than like the Switch, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, I have like 150 Steam games.
Yeah. So I mean, just like being able to take that library on the go, that does seem pretty appealing to me actually. The more I think about it, but...
Because you have Cyberpunk on Steam, right?
I do, yeah.
So you'll have that forever on the go if you want, maybe.
Yeah, being able to take it... Well, I mean, I also own the Stadia version, so technically I can take it on the go, but having my save file from Steam, that's a pretty big thing.
Now... A mobile device that I am interested in, and likely both of us will purchase, is the Switch Pro, which has long been rumored, but Nintendo is still very, very quiet about. They came out and they said, hey, our press conference is going to be on the 15th, and it's only going to be about software, guys. And I have heard a lot of rumors that are saying like, oh, they're just gonna drop a trailer pre-E3 just to be like, hey, here's the Switch Pro, and then during their E3 thing, they won't have to announce it. They'll just talk about games coming to the Switch Pro. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, that's the same rumor I heard as well, that it'll be possibly dropping before E3, so before their thing happens. Yeah, as we're recording this, like it could happen at any point in time. But I mean,
my feed.
They've been saying for weeks now that there's going to be like, this week is the week they're going to show the Switch Pro. Do you think they call it Super Switch or...
Ooh, that's a good name.
Super Nintendo Switch?
Here are a list of names that I think it will be. Super Switch is number 1. New Switch. Switch XD. No, Switch XL. Switch HD. New Nintendo Switch HD.
Not Switch 4K?
I don't think 4K is in their marketing.
I mean, it's already HD.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I think it will have a crazy name. Or, I mean, the Switch is such a good name. I could see them being smart and just being like, I don't know, Switch, maybe Switch HD is the best one. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Now that you mention it, I can see Switch XL just because that was what they did with their like 3DS lineup. But
the DS had so many insane variants that were called crazy things. I feel like we couldn't put it past them for it to have like a 5-word title.
But I mean, I guess now that I think about it, that probably wouldn't be the case, because the reason they did like the whole like 3DS XL was because those were like literally different sizes, whereas the Switch Pro is rumored to be like roughly the same size.
Really?
But
see, I was hoping for it to have larger.
4K.
I wanted it to have larger Joy-Cons, because when I've played just with the Joy-Cons, I have often felt that they're too small for my hands.
Yeah.
Like more ergonomic Joy-Cons.
Yeah, and maybe I'm going off an older rumor, but I thought that the like Switch Pro's rumored like portable screen was gonna still be like 720p. I guess maybe it would be a little bit larger, but it was still gonna be like 720p. And it was the dock where like the real upgrades were gonna be felt, because it could output in 4K.
Interesting.
I could be wrong. I mean, there could still be no Switch Pro. I mean, who knows? But
5 days from now, I mean, it might be out and we have all the specifics about it. So,
right.
I mean, maybe that's what the entire...
I mean, it could happen after we're done recording this, so before the podcast even goes up, and we could just be completely wrong about everything. But
before we talk about E3, I briefly need to talk about a story that came out last week. I know that you're not as hot on the Fast and Furious franchise as I am.
Right.
But I think like Fast and Furious and Mission Impossible are two of the best franchises happening maybe ever. They're so insane. Both of them are so insane for different reasons, but Fast and Furious is definitely funnier. But it came out there that some executive or someone at Universal was like, oh yeah, we want to have a Fast and Furious and Jurassic World crossover movie. Which is a great idea. Because I feel like Vin Diesel will demand to be involved. It's not going to be some side character. So this crossover event presupposes one of two realities. One, somehow Vin Diesel's character gets brought to Earth Prime or whatever, where Jurassic World is currently happening, through some sort of wormhole or something. Who can say? Or two, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, all of the Jurassic movies have just been happening, and no one in the Fast and Furious universe has like talked about it at all. Like Jurassic Park 2 happened, where Jeff Goldblum was running through LA and there was a T-Rex, and Vin Diesel's character is aware of that, but it has never come up in a Fast and Furious movie. And both of those possible ideas are very interesting to me, and I don't know which one they would do.
I just want them to get Jeff Goldblum into Fast and Furious.
He would do it. Like, Helen Mirren has been in these movies, man.
Yeah. I mean, plus, Jeff Goldblum is an American treasure, so if he's in it, I would probably watch it, even though I've not necessarily watched the other Fast and Furious movies.
Fast 9 is the first movie I will see in theaters post-pandemic because it's coming out later. I think it's coming out in July or later in June. And I have been fully vaxxed. Everything is... I went to a Target the other day and employees weren't wearing masks, which is initially insane to me, but it's happening, I guess. The world is opening back up. And so I'm going to go see this Fast and Furious movie, and it's going to be great. There's no world where it isn't great. And hopefully, at the very end of it, there's no way this is going to happen. But there's always a tease. It's like a Marvel movie at this point, where there's always a tease at the end of the movie where something crazy happens. I think it was, I want to say 5 or 6 was the one where at the very end, they revealed that Jason Statham is in this universe. And I was shocked in the theater. I said, "Oh my God," out loud in the theater. And so it would be great if at the end of Fast 9, if they have hastily thrown together, like Dom, who is Vin Diesel's character, gets like a package or like an envelope. He's like sitting late at night drinking a Corona, and he like opens up this envelope, and it's just like a picture of a raptor or something riding a motorcycle. That would be crazy.
Will he ride a raptor, you think?
God, he better, man.
Just have a saddle on it.
I would love that. He could drift. He could drift on like a Stegosaurus, and that would be excellent. But this is just something I need to talk about consistently, and I will be bringing it up again in future podcasts. But okay.
Well, speaking of movies, did you see the trailer for this Reminiscence movie with Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson from the Mission Impossible movies?
No.
You should check out this trailer. It kind of reminded me of Inception a little bit. It definitely has, like, just the look of it has, like, a Christopher Nolan vibe to it. And it's because it's written and directed by Lisa Joy, who worked on Westworld with Jonathan Nolan. Of course, Christopher Nolan's brother. So there is sort of that Christopher Nolan connection there. But yeah, it looks like a good movie, and I want to watch it. I don't know. I think it's coming out this year in theaters. So I definitely will watch that. But you should check it out.
Okay. We need to talk about E3.
We do. Enough beating around the bush. Let's get into E3. So E3 technically kicks off on June 12th. We've already had there was a stream today from Guerrilla Collective that had a bunch of indie stuff. They're going to do a part 2 of that stream with more indie stuff later on once E3 gets going. Also happening before that June 12th start date is a Battlefield 6 reveal that's scheduled for June 9th. I'm pretty excited about that. I do like the Battlefield game, so I will probably check it out.
Do we know, have they talked about like the time period Battlefield 6 is going to be in?
There have been some leaks, and I have not really looked at them, but it seems... let me see if they've got...
Battlefield 5 was in the past? Am I right about that?
Yeah, Battlefield 5 was World War II, I want to say. So,
that's right.
So Battlefield 6, the leaked video confirms a near future setting.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So yeah, I like the Battlefield games, so I will definitely be watching that stream. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got. I will definitely play that game when it comes out. It will probably come out later this year. Hopefully it is not as buggy as Battlefield 5 was when it came out.
I remember watching a lot of footage, a lot of gameplay of Battlefield 5 and just marveling at how beautiful the engine is.
Yeah. That engine that they use, the Frostbite engine, is really, really gorgeous. It just is rough to work with from everything that we've seen over the years. June 10th, I guess June 10th is technically the start of it because of that's when Summer Games Fest kickoff show happens, supposedly including indie game showcase and a performance by Weezer, Blast from the Past. You have something in here in the show notes that I don't know what it is.
What do you think it is? All I have written is EL/KO.
Well, something's getting knocked out. That's all I know.
This is Jeff Keighley's thing. I like Jeff Keighley as a guy. He seems like a nice guy. He's very into games. consistently, every time he has done something, the last like 3 times he's done something, people have been hungry for Elden Ring gameplay. That was like the main. I remember at the Game Awards, he was like, "All right, let's take a look at what's most anticipated." And one of the top one was Elden Ring. He's like, "Yep, it's Elden Ring, just as I saw," or something. He like did a little quip, but I feel like he has tied himself to this Elden Ring in some way because people are constantly asking for updates on this, and he is just putting all these shows, and so he's the one that's being asked about it, and I feel like there's a not small chance. I mean, there was that leak a couple of months ago where like someone shot video off of a screen of supposedly Elden Ring stuff where there was like a horse you could ride and whatnot. But I think there's a not small chance that Keighley has gone above and beyond and we will get an Elden Ring reveal before E3 has even begun at Summer Games Fest, and it will be a huge deal.
I mean, it will definitely be a huge deal once like anything for that game is shown, because people are wild about that game. And I don't know if that's like the time that it will happen, because supposedly it's an indie game showcase. But I mean,
oh really? Has he said it's only going to be indie games?
From what I've looked up, that's what they have penciled in for that show. It might even be on the Summer Games Fest if you click on that link. There's
I read there was going to be 30 announcements. I mean,
at the
like
kickoff?
Another thing at the isn't the kickoff the press conference?
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying maybe it was 30 announcements over the course of the summer? Maybe that's the case.
Possibly. I'm not quite sure what all is going to go into this kickoff live show, other than Weezer will be there, but I mean, as far as games, I'm not sure.
Now, the other thing Jeff Keighley is known for is super liking Kojima.
Right.
Like, he's all about it. I remember the last great PlayStation press conference was the one where they revealed Death Stranding. Maybe not the last one, but it was one of the ones that was most memorable to me because everything was just bang, bang, bang. And I want to say Jeff Keighley was involved in that. And also, he gave Kojima a bunch of awards that time. Like, they're bros. So,
yeah.
I don't know
he was in Death Stranding.
He was in Death Stranding. I don't know what Kojima could be working on. Who's to say what is going on in his head? But it seems like he can do whatever he wants at this point. So maybe he's making a small game. Maybe he's making another big game. Maybe he's making a sequel to Death Stranding. I don't think that's likely. But we could I think we'll at least get a shout out from Keighley about what Kojima's been doing. Maybe just like a video message of Kojima being like, "Hey, thanks for thinking of me. Welcome to Summer Games Fest," or something. But I think it's somewhat likely that we will see Kojima and Keighley have some kind of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that we will hear something from Kojima, just because it is like a Jeff Keighley thing to always have him somehow involved in the show. There was a social media post recently, it was either Twitter or Instagram, where it was like a picture of Kojima sitting at his desk being like, hard at work was like the caption. So
really?
He's working on something, and so ever since that, people have been speculating that he's going to show something at Summer Games Fest.
You know, I used to follow Kojima on Twitter, but I had to stop because he constantly is tweeting, or he was in the lead up to, I think, Death Stranding. He was like never not tweeting stuff and retweeting stuff, so I had to unfollow him. But that's very interesting.
Yeah, so I could be something from Kojima at the show, or I mean, I don't know if it's going to be Death Stranding 2 or if he's got something completely new. He did say something in like an interview at one point where he would like to work with
Norman Reedus?
Yeah, Norman Reedus. He said he would like to work with him again, and that could be Death Stranding 2, or I don't know. Who knows? But moving on to the next day, June 11th, Netflix is going to have a show where they talk about games, but also shows based on games, which could include The Witcher Season 2.
Ah, yes. They're currently shooting that, is that right?
They're in some part of the process of working on that show. I don't know. But otherwise, not super exciting to me unless they want to announce like a Mass Effect TV series, but that probably won't happen. So also on June 11th, I think it's pronounced Coke Media will have a presentation, and from what I've seen, you'd be surprised how many like notable franchises that they actually have the rights to, including I have listed in here Saints Row, Metro Exodus, and Time Splitters, which is the one that we heard recently is getting a new game.
Now, I thought that I've only ever played the most recent Saints Row game where you're in the Matrix. Have you played any more besides that?
I've not played any Saints Row games.
Really? The Matrix one was pretty fun. I don't know why I bought it. It must have been on sale or something. But I really enjoyed that. I like games where you're in a virtual world, and they did a lot of fun stuff with that. And you eventually could just like fly around like Superman. But I also didn't know Dead Island 2 was still happening. Wasn't that like 20 years ago?
Yeah, forever ago that they said that was going to happen. I played the first Dead Island and liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So it was crazy that they announced it like so long ago and then just like nothing came of it. But
it was an iconic trailer. I remember that trailer where that guy's like jogging and everything becomes undead or whatever. And then just like it died basically.
Yeah. And then there's that Dying Light game that is basically, is that not the same developer? Is that a different developer?
It might be. I, for a while, thought that was in the same universe or something, and they had just changed Dead Island to that. But I guess that's not the case.
That's what I thought for a long time.
That one was all about, like, what if Dead Island had, like, free running, basically.
Yeah.
It was all about free running.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect from this presentation. I kind of do hope that there's at least some sort of, like, cool teaser for Time Splitters, because I really liked Time Splitters 2.
Yeah. All those games are great.
Even if they're like, hey, we're sort of remastering these for like modern consoles. Here's like a trilogy of these games coming out. That would
not to jump ahead, but like Time Splitters, I feel like occupies a similar space in my head to Perfect Dark, wherein the best thing about it was you were constantly getting new crazy guns, and that's I feel like something that is not super present in modern first-person shooters because you have to like you're constantly only holding like 2 or 3 guns. That's why those new Doom games were so good because they brought that old like classic, oh yeah, you're holding like 10 guns right now and they're all crazy and they all have secondary fires. And I feel like I hope they don't try to like modernize Time Splitters where like you only have a pistol and like a long gun and every once in a while you pick up like a monkey or something.
Yeah, well, you better be able to play as a monkey. And also, like, dual wielding was, like, a huge thing for Time Splitters, too. Yeah. So they better, like, find some way of making that still part of the gameplay.
And frankly, another great thing about Time Splitters was the multiplayer.
Yeah. I played a ton of it because they also had, like, a mode where you could play against bots. So it kind of turned it into, like, one of those co-op survival type games. Like whatchamacallit, like a Gears of War 2 horde mode type of a
horde
thing.
Mode, yeah.
And so I played a ton of that just doing that, just like playing it like a horde mode. And it was super fun because you could also like really customize things. Like you could make your own maps. You could like say how many bots you wanted there and like how aggressive you wanted them to be. And it was like, it was super customizable and it was a lot of fun just to mess around in that game and the multiplayer of it. So I hope that they do something interesting with the multiplayer as well. Even bringing back like the map maker type of thing would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next day, June 12th, Devolver Digital. I don't know if I have these listed out in like chronological order in terms of like when each presentation is going to happen that particular day. So they might be out of order, but they are supposed to occur on the specific days that I have them listed. So, Devolver Digital, there's like a ton of things that they could potentially show off. They have like a ton of indie games.
Who knows what they're going to do? Yeah. They're insane.
They are insane, and their shows are always wild and over the top. So it could be interesting. I just put in here a few things talking points like, will they bring Loop Hero to consoles?
That would be, it's itching to be on Steam.
Yeah.
Or not Steam.
Switch.
Switch, yeah. It's like a perfect Switch game.
Also, Katana Zero, I know they're working on a DLC. They've been working on it for a long time, and every time they give an update about it, they're like, oh, it's even bigger now than it was originally planned to be. So I'm not sure what to expect there. I loved Katana Zero, though. It's a great game that I highly recommend checking out. So a DLC for that. I thought they were just going to make another game, but they're apparently working on a DLC that continually expands in size. So hopefully we hear something about that. That Eastward game, I don't know if you remember.
Man, I forgot about that. Yeah,
It's been so long.
That's something I'm eagerly looking forward to. I didn't know that was a Devolver Digital.
I mean, I think it is. I wrote it in here because I went to Devolver Digital's website just to like see what games they have so I could get a sense of like what types of things we might see, and Eastward was on their website, so I assume it's a Devolver Digital thing.
I would love for that to come out. I completely forgot about that.
It looked so good, like every time I see a trailer for it, but yeah, it's like it's been forever.
Yeah.
But I did put in here, there's like the developer working on it tweeted, and there's just like he's got like 20 different screens in front of him, and he's like working on the game, and he's like developing cross-platform games is like ... and you just see this like image of like 30 screens in front of him.
That's crazy. Oh man, it's all moving as one.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was fun.
The art is so beautiful.
It is. It's a really good looking game. So it just needs to come out so we can play it. Yeah. But all right, moving on. Still on June 12th, the part 2 of Guerrilla Collective. We watched the first one today as we're recording this. There was some cool stuff in it. So more indie games to be shown there. Next up is Ubisoft Forward. They already did a Far Cry 6 stream. I don't know if you caught that.
I watched that, yeah.
So you can play in third-person mode. They're bringing a third-person mode to Far Cry 6.
That's pretty crazy. I think I'm going to play this. I was not super hot on Far Cry 5. Yeah. It was fun, and I think we talked about it. By the end of it, I was just skipping every cutscene because I did not care. And the ending was a real bummer to me.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious what is made of that. So I'm partially curious for Far Cry 6 just to see where it goes. I guess there was another Far Cry game that I did not play that happened.
Yeah, the future one. It took place in the future, like on the same map as Far Cry 5, but after the post-apocalypse.
So maybe they don't even address it. Maybe I just missed that part of the story, but
yeah.
No,
I'm interested in though.
It's actually one of the criticisms we had for Far Cry 5 was that it was just like backwoods America, whereas like Far Cry is normally about going to some sort of cool exotic locale. And
it also, another criticism I have briefly, was that they did that thing where you would just walk into an area and it was impossible not to do a story mission. Like you would just become unconscious. Which I hated.
Yeah, that was annoying as well. Like, you couldn't just, like, tackle stuff as you chose. It's just sort of, like, a certain amount of time and be like, okay, we're moving this story forward, like it or not. So, yeah, Far Cry 6, different setting that's not just, like, rural America.
Yeah.
So that's good. Their games look really nice. And they are good shooters that are... They always perform really well. So I'm excited. I probably will play Far Cry 6 when it comes out. That's one of the big fall releases.
Yeah. It's probably going to look insane on PS5.
I bet it will too, but I prefer shooters with mouse and keyboard now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I will pick this up on PS5 or if I'll just play it on Steam. But I assume there will be some sort of announcement about Assassin's Creed. I put that in with a question mark. I'm not sure.
Now, see, I thought they were... didn't they at one point say they were slowing down Assassin's Creed, the crazy engine that is like yearly Assassin's Creeds?
I feel like they said that years ago, and it has felt like they have not actually slowed down.
Yeah.
It could be just like a big DLC for the last Assassin's Creed, which was already a huge game. But I don't know. I feel like there's always some sort of Assassin's Creed announcement around E3. So I put in 2 question marks next to some games that we have not heard about for some time, and we may not hear about this year, but there are things that if you follow Ubisoft, they will probably be on your radar. Skull and Bones and Beyond Good and Evil 2. Do you think we hear anything about either of these games?
I don't think Skull and Bones is ever going to come out or is currently being developed anymore.
Unless it's just like completely a different game at this point.
It's a mobile game now. But I don't know about Beyond Good and Evil 2. I think it was a thing where they bit off way too much more than they could chew. I remember seeing demos of it like 2 or 3 years ago where they were like, yeah, here's like a spaceship flying next to this giant it's like statue, and you can like go anywhere, and it's crazy, and it's like, I don't know, man. They were like, also, didn't they do like a weird thing where they wanted the community to make part of the game by like submitting art and songs and stuff?
Yeah, that was through Joseph Gordon-Levitt's thing. Yeah. What is that called?
Hit Record?
Yeah, Hit Record.
I don't know, man. I feel like this is a Star Citizen level of like, it's gonna be this game is gonna have everything. It's gonna be everyone. It's gonna be everything to everyone, and it's gonna have something for the masses. And I feel like there's no way that's gonna happen. It's either gonna come out and be a Duke Nukem Forever type thing where it's like awful, or it's just never gonna come out, or it's gonna come out in quotes early access and just be like Star Citizen where it's constantly in like some % of being made, but never fully released.
Yeah, I can see that. It's also like, to be fair, we've had a weird stretch of years where like the new consoles came out. So this game surely started development for like PS4 and Xbox One. And now we're like, you can't, it's been like the development has gone on long enough that you can't just like release it for last gen consoles at this point. So you have to work on upgrading to the next gen consoles, but also like COVID happened. So everything got pushed back for that as well. So like, I don't know, hard to say where that's at, but yeah, they did like several years ago now, they had like long like gameplay sessions that they put up that you could watch, that I remember watching around E3 like several years ago, and I was like, this game's got like, seems like it should be ready to go soon, right? But
that piece by Jason Schreier about Anthem has colored like all of my ideas about game development now. Where, I mean, I used to be in the mind of like, oh yeah, it's taking so long to develop. They've been working on this singular project for so long. There's no way it can be bad. But I mean, I think it really is the case that a lot of times projects are in development for so long because there's a ton of starting and stopping and just starting from scratch again. And that's probably the case with this, where they've probably started like 5 different games and they've only truly been developing this game for like the last year or something. Yeah,
it could very well be like a No Man's Sky situation where like you've got someone like Sean Murray out there promising the world and all of the features that they ever wrote on like a whiteboard in a meeting room somewhere. And then, like, as they're developing, they have to sort of slowly realize, okay, we need to cross this off and cross that off. And then, like you said, with Anthem, most of the development ends up happening within, like, the last 6 months to a year before the thing comes out. So, I mean, it could be that situation as well. I don't know. Just too many questions around it. But I almost am rooting for some sort of return to E3 from this game just because it's been so long. I kind of want to see what, if anything, has happened in all of that time.
Now, something you don't have on this Ubisoft Forward, which I didn't know about until earlier this week. I don't remember who told me about this. Might have been someone from my work was like, oh yeah, and this is something else you should look out for. And I've not done any research on this, so I don't even know if it's real. But was the team behind The Division making an open world Star Wars game? Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
I have not Googled it, so I am not a good source of information. But that could be a crazy reveal.
I guess I did hear that there was it was possible that some other studio, like outside of EA, could be working on a Star Wars thing.
EA's done. They've wrapped their contract, I believe.
But they still have Star Wars games in the works, though, right?
Yeah, but it's not exclusively EA anymore.
Okay. Maybe that was what I heard. Yeah, I don't know. I've not heard anything about the Division team working on a Star Wars game. That sounds cool to me.
Yeah, like I liked the Division's engine and just like running around that world, like that super high fidelity world, and just like hanging out with friends in the Dark Zone or whatever it was called. But if they were able to if they made, what was that old game that never came out? Like Level 555. It was that game that took place on a certain level of Coruscant that had like a crazy E3 demo, and then it got
1313.
1313, yes. If they did a thing like that where they were just like, yeah, here's a fully realized Star Wars planet. You're not going to be planet hopping. It's just going to take place on like Coruscant or some other crazy planet that has a city in it. Naboo, perhaps. And you're just like, if it's like somewhat like The Division where it's kind of open world and there's like other player characters in the world, that's interesting to me. That's something I would take a look at.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see like how they pull that off, but that would be cool. Like, basically, I don't know, man. Like, you set almost any style game in the Star Wars universe, and it becomes a little bit more interesting.
True.
But yeah, what is the Division translated into the Star Wars universe? Like,
a great question.
I would be very curious to see what that game ended up being. So moving forward to the next day, June 13th, we have the PC Gaming Show. This is,
who can say what that's
yeah,
gonna be?
I have no clue as to what to expect from that other than probably a lot of indie games.
Let's get into the big one, possibly the biggest show of the year.
Yes. This is the real big one. Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase.
I have a prediction.
Okay.
I think that this is going to be over 2 hours long.
I hope you're right. Who can say, though?
Because Bethesda has had their own thing forever, and now they're just lumped in with Xbox. Like, I feel like this entire presentation could be Bethesda, especially if they do a deep dive on Starfield, which fingers crossed they do. But I mean, they have Halo Infinite they can talk about. They've got, I mean, Fable 4 is something you have written down that I completely forgot about because we've only seen like one cinematic of it. But
right.
They could go like 2.5 hours with the amount of and just like blow everyone out of the water. And they're good at it too. Like consistently, Xbox knows the perfect formula of my thing that I've talked about at every E3, and I'm going to say again right now, of you start with something where you don't know what it is, and then you like rack focus and you figure out like, oh my God, that's Master Chief or something. And you realize that you're looking at something you didn't even know was in development, and it's something you've wanted forever. And then a ton of reveals, possibly a deep dive, and then at the very end, there's one more thing that also just like leaves you blown out of the water. And I think they're on the track to do exactly that. They're going to probably have something crazy at the beginning that could be Starfield, frankly. And then like a ton of reveals, possibly a deep dive into something, and then something crazy at the end. Who knows what it's going to be, man? It could be Fable at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, the Xbox showcase, I feel like, has been sort of the catch-all for like all the third-party games. So I expect, like you said, this could be a really long show where they almost devote an hour to Bethesda stuff just because they've got plenty they could potentially show. But they also have plenty that it might be too far out to really show anything. It just kind of depends on where we're at with Starfield. But then
another prediction I have is that we will not see anything about Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I put it in to the outline with a question mark because I am hopeful to see something, but I kind of don't think we will, especially if they're going to talk about Starfield.
Yeah, if they're going to put Starfield, if they're going to finally shine a light and open the door to Starfield, I feel like there's no way we're going to get any kind of Elder Scrolls 6 stuff.
And I had forgotten about it, but they're working on an Indiana Jones game.
I also forgot about that. Yeah, they are. I guess I would assume it's going to be a an Uncharted type of thing, wouldn't you think? A third-person action?
I mean, you'd have to think that if they're gonna do an Indiana Jones game, the obvious inspiration is Uncharted, and
here it is. Here's what it's gonna be. This is what it's gonna be, Zach. I've figured it out. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
The presentation starts. It is gonna be on a stage, but with no audience, or like a fake audience or something. We start the first trailer. No one has talked yet. The first trailer starts, and it's like some sort of ancient civilization doing something, and it's crazy. There's like magic or whatever. And then at the end of everyone's trying to get like an orb or like a crystal or something. And it falls through the cracks. You're following this crystal throughout time, and it's like changing hands or whatever. Eventually it gets in the sand. The end of the trailer, feet walk up to this stone that's like in sand, or it's like in a river or something. It's been lost to time. A hand comes down and picks it up, and we pan up, and it's Harrison Ford. And he says some kind of Indiana Jones stuff. It's very hard. I'm so excited about this. I'm trying not to curse. But he says some kind of Indiana Jones type thing. Cut to the stage. The stage opens up, and there's a bunch of white smoke, very similar, in fact, inspired by when Keanu Reeves came out last year. And Harrison Ford comes out, and he's like, guess what? I'm voicing Indiana Jones, and this is what it is, and whatever. He has a whip. That's what I think is going to happen.
And I can see Harrison Ford and Todd Howard walking out there both in leather jackets. And they do like a back and forth on Indiana Jones. That would be cool.
I don't know that that's impossible. I mean, obviously Harrison Ford doesn't care about anything and hates everything.
That was my one thing about that. I was like, Harrison Ford, they probably couldn't get him to do it because he does not like things.
Of all the things, though, I mean, he obviously doesn't need money, but if he was going to do something, just voice acting, I feel like it's something that's right up his alley because he doesn't have to he could sit doing it, you know?
Yeah. Will he be old in the game or young?
Ooh. I think this will take place in between the time period of Temple of Doom and the first Indiana Jones movie, pre him ever meeting Marion or whatever her name was and doing Jesus stuff.
Interesting.
I think Short Round's going to be in this game, actually. The movie ends with him and Short Round being like, let's go to this restaurant in Shanghai and get these diamonds.
I do not like that movie.
No? That opening, what's the song they do, but it's in like Cantonese?
Oh, yeah. It's a Cole Porter song. I know that much. I can't remember the name.
I like that sequence because I like that girl singing that song. But once they get on the airplane, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade a lot. I usually will skip that one when I'm rewatching those movies.
But yeah, I could see. I think they are aware that the first and the last thing have to be tent poles. They have to be insane things where everyone is like keeping to they want to look at the screen, but they also want to tweet about it because it's so insane what's happening. And I could see them trying to. I mean, it's Microsoft. They have $1 billion. They could just throw a bunch of money at Indiana Jones himself and be like, just do an appearance or be in this game or whatever.
It's possible.
If I'm right about this, wouldn't that be crazy?
It would be. I will definitely make a note of how on the money you were for this. I mean, I hope you're right because it sounds cool. It would be fun to watch. I did put into the show notes for the Xbox plus Bethesda showcase Deathloop, which, because it is a Bethesda game, but it's also, we were talking about it before we started recording, Deathloop is a timed exclusive for Sony and PC, so it probably won't show up here, actually, now that I think about it.
Such a weird situation.
It is a weird situation. They've already shown a lot of that game, so, I mean, it probably will have some sort of presence at E3 just because it's a big game for them that hasn't come out yet. But I mean, I feel like I've seen all I need to see about that game. Like, I'm ready to just play it at this point.
What are your thoughts on Halo Infinite, which was revealed last year, and everybody was like, this is not good. This is, in fact, not what we wanted from a Halo game. They've got to show something, because I would assume, is coming out imminently. And I have seen that the multiplayer is going to be free. So is the multiplayer just deathmatch? Is it capture the flag? Is it a battle royale? Like, how different is Halo Infinite going to be at this showing?
Hard to say. I mean, part of me wants to go out on a limb and say this will definitely get a release date and it will be this fall. But
yeah,
also, like,
I think it'll get a release date. I think you're right.
It is crazy. Like, we're however many months into the new console generation, and the Xbox Series X does not have any exclusives. Like, I feel like that has not happened before in like
that
the
is
world
crazy
of
to think about
console releases. So
yeah,
I feel like they definitely are feeling the pressure to like release the game at this point. So that's maybe one of my predictions, is that Halo Infinite will get a release date and it will be this fall. I did not hear that the multiplayer was going to be free.
I think that is the case.
Because I will probably get this on PC, because I don't own a Xbox Series X, but also it's a shooter and I would rather play with mouse and keyboard. But I'm not a huge Halo guy, to be honest. I know like you're pretty fond of them, but
yeah, I really enjoyed, I want to say, the first Halo when I was in high school, and like me and my group of 8 friends, or there were 8 of us in all, so there were 4 per console. We would get 4v4 games going, and just that was every weekend was basically going to my friend's house, hooking up 2 TVs with 2 Xboxes and like a little hub, and just playing 4v4 capture the flag with Halo 1 and then 2, and then 3 came out in college. But we would still every once in a while get together post that when we were all back in town in the summers. And I don't know, man. I have not really gotten into 4 or 5 or however many there are now, because I stopped having Xboxes and did not really care to play the single player. I don't really know what the single player is for any of them. I know that the lore is something people like a lot, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I played 2, 3, and Reach, and I think I liked Reach better than the others, which is
I've heard Reach is great. Yeah,
heresy to some, because like Halo 2 is like the holy grail of Halo games, but yeah, I don't know. I like, the story is not something that really drives me to want to play those games, and I'm also like not super into the multiplayer, because I feel like the multiplayer when it came out initially with those early Halo games was like the big multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many other multiplayer shooters have come out since then that have sort of superseded it, that it's sort of hard for it's like a dying breed at this point. It's like, are people really still that into Halo? I mean, maybe they are, and I'm just out of touch with it because I've not been into the series that much. But
I'd like to ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you think, what in your mind is more likely to occur at the Xbox plus Bethesda Game Showcase? Todd Howard comes out in his leather jacket and talks about Starfield for, 15 to 30 minutes. Or whoever is in charge of Halo Infinite gets the stage and gets to talk about Halo Infinite for 15 to 30 minutes.
I think maybe the latter.
Really? Yeah, I guess that's more of a unknown quantity.
Yeah. And that's really the only thing that's making me lean towards that. But I mean, like I said, I want to see, I would love a name for Elder Scrolls 6, even if it's like a teaser. And I do want to see like a long, like Starfield thing. And I think the Starfield thing is likely, at least some sort of something. But I do think like Halo Infinite, like this is going to be sort of their big showcase game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I really don't know what's going to happen with Starfield. We don't know anything about it. We've talked about this 1,000 times, but we don't even know if you have a ship. We don't know if you're only on a planet.
There have been some leaks, but it's not been enough to really tell us anything.
What leaks have you heard?
No, there have been like images, like screenshots or like off-screen images that have leaked. But again, it's not enough to really know anything.
This is the big one. Like, Ubisoft Forward is going to be interesting, and I'll definitely check that out. But this is the one where I'm planning to, like, order some food and just, like, really have a great time at the movies, you know?
Yeah. And it is the one that, like, we know the most about, probably, or at least can speculate the most about, because, like, Sony has not even said that they're going to do a show. And if they do, it'll probably just be, like, a state of play about
who knows?
Who knows what. But I also wrote in here, maybe the new Call of Duty will show up, because I feel like those always show up at like the Microsoft press conference. And then like later they do their own like deep dive stream on like the changes coming to multiplayer and like their whatever their cooperative mode is. But
I have a prediction.
Okay.
I predict... I'm trying to think I've just thought of this and I don't know how likely it is, but I think it's not insane to predict that throughout all of this E3 week, we're not going to hear any news about Destiny 2.
I think you're right. And it leans into one of my predictions, which I don't know if I want to get into now or if we want to save these for later. Okay.
Yeah.
Just remind me of that if I forget to mention.
Okay.
But yeah, it would not surprise me if they don't do... Like, Bungie has, over the last few years, like, in the lead up to E3, they will do their own, like, hour-long, like, hey, here's the new DLC that's coming this fall. It would not surprise me if they did not do one of those this year.
Yeah. I did not... Last I checked, I didn't know that Square Enix had confirmed a show.
It was in the listing. I think if you go to... I had a link in here for Summer Games Fest. They had the lineup, and I want to say Square Enix was on there. They've done press conferences over the last few years, so I'm pretty sure that they will do one.
Remember, like 2 or 3 years ago, when they had that weird one that was just like a series of paintings that we were going from one to the other?
Yeah, that was weird. We have a full recap of that show on our YouTube channel. I should go back and watch some of those just for old time's sake, but... Yeah, I feel like how much they show of the games that they've like Square Enix has in their lineup that will determine whether or not there's a Sony press conference. Because I feel like all the stuff that's listed here under Square Enix is the stuff that I would expect to see during a Sony State of Play for E3. We got Final Fantasy 16, which who knows when that's coming out. There's Final Fantasy Origin, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that's that one that was recently announced.
That's the mobile
or
one, right?
teased. No, this is the one that is a spin-off action game.
Oh, yeah.
That is supposed to be sort of like the Dark Souls series.
Yes, I'm interested in that. I don't super like Souls games that much. I am enjoying Fallen Order, so maybe I'm turning a new leaf. I much preferred watching my brother play Bloodborne as opposed to playing it because it was too difficult for me.
Yeah.
But if I could if this is a situation where I can have a Buster Sword, and I mean, what I basically want is what we're going to talk about next, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
Right.
But who knows what this origin could be? If there's like Moogles, I guess, Chocobos.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say what it's gonna be, or even like what time period it'll be in? But
yeah.
So they could show that. I put in here with a bunch of question marks. 7 Remake Part 2, just because they've got Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade here in the next few days.
Yeah, I feel like, man, how much of a boon would it be for them? I can't imagine how far because we don't know how far. We knew for a long time that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 was only going to be Midgar, because that's a great stopping point. But I can't think of the next great stopping point, so I have no idea the scope of this new game. Or, I mean, for all intents and purposes, there should be a world map in this game, but I don't know that that's the type of game to have a world map. I think it's consistently going to be just, linear. And I don't know how you remain linear when the world opens up like that, unless they're drastically changing what that game can be. So I am very interested to see what it is, but I also don't think that we are going to be seeing that this year.
Yeah, I don't either. So part of me is like, it took them so long to make the first part of Final Fantasy VII Remake because they had to get all their ducks in a row. They had to get the engine all set up. They had to sort of decide, okay, map out, okay, this is what we're starting with. This is where we're going. And that's why all of that took so long. But now that they sort of have that groundwork ready to go, like maybe the next couple parts don't take as long to make.
Think about this, though.
My hope.
At some point, they have to go to the Golden Saucer, and that's going to be an insane thing in and of itself.
I mean, I've not played through the original yet. I have it. I need to play it. So I'm even more clueless about where they could potentially be going with the next part of the remake than you are.
Could go a lot of ways, I have to say.
Are you bummed that you're locked out of Intergrade because PS5s are so hard to get?
Yeah, I have not tried to get a PS5, but that is something that I definitely would have purchased. I mean, eventually I will own a PS5, and at that point I will play Intergrade, but I think I have enough time in between Part 2 coming out and this DLC being available where I can wait like a year.
And still do a full playthrough of Remake.
Exactly, yeah.
That's true.
But what is Forspoken?
So this is that they updated the name. They actually released the name. It was formerly Project Athia. I don't know if you remember, because I feel like there's been a couple of trailers for it, and it looks like the traversal is pretty crazy. It looks kind of vaguely Final Fantasy-esque.
Yes, I recall this. Yeah, this looked crazy to me. This looked like a tech demo for PS5 because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, the graphics look amazing. And yeah, it seems...
You're like a witch. Yeah, this looks great to me.
So it looks pretty cool. I definitely want to see more of this game. I feel like they've really only done little snippets of it, and it's looked astounding every time, just visually speaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the most recent one had like a giant like dragon creature in it, and so I'm almost more like,
I'm into this. Yeah.
What is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like an open world game? And yeah, like the traversal in it seems pretty crazy. Like you seem to be able to like run and jump and sort of fly around pretty crazy. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that we see more of this game. I think there are some people that are pretty hyped for it. So yeah.
Does Square own Eidos that made Deus Ex?
I don't know.
I saw a story yesterday or the day before about how the new Eidos game is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy like third-person game that might get revealed at E3, but I don't know who Eidos is owned by anymore.
That's a good question. I'm not.
But I know
sure.
that Square was involved in that Marvel and the Avengers game, so I thought maybe they would be in the same.
Yeah, I mean, like I put down in here that some sort of DLC for Marvel's Avengers will probably be likely to be shown at Square Enix press conference, and I don't know, maybe they have something related to that as well. Because you would think if they've got the license for Marvel's Avengers, a Guardians game would probably fall under Square Enix as well.
Yeah, we should say we're recording this on the 5th of June. So there could be things that have revealed into the lead up of E3 that we don't know about, and we have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're just going off the information we have on June 5th.
Yeah, and so also happening on June 13, as we continue down the outline here, the Warner Brothers games supposedly will have some sort of presence. I don't know if it's a full-on press conference or like some sort of stream, or if they're just sort of working things into maybe that Xbox press conference. Hard to say, but I feel like we will probably see something from that Hogwarts Legacy game.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and then that Back 4 Blood game, which is basically Left 4 Dead, but not called Left 4 Dead. Some people are super hyped about that. I'm not super into zombies anymore. I can't do more zombie
take it
games.
or leave it.
But yeah, I do expect to see something from that Hogwarts Legacy game. And then that should wrap up June 13th. So moving on to June 14th, Take-Two. I put in here anything from Rockstar ? Like maybe a next GTA game.
I don't know. I feel like we're still
too close to Red Dead 2.
When did that come out? Was that 2 years ago?
Yes, 2 or 3 years ago now.
I mean, it's been what, like 12 years since GTA 5 came out? More than that? Less than that? That game has had such long legs that I feel like
they're still selling that game.
I mean, isn't it still slated to come out for PS5 at some point?
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you if you knew anything about whether they were going to do a PS5, Xbox Series X release for GTA.
They are. Remember, that was like during the first thing about the PS5, the first trailer was for no reason a GTA 5 trailer. And they were like, guess what? This is coming to PlayStation 5. And everyone was like, all right, this is what you're leading with? But
oh yeah, I vaguely recall that.
It's gotten like, I feel like the upgrade, I mean, I don't know if they're always changing the engine, but it feels like the engine is new every time there's a new mainline GTA game. Like from 3 to 4 was crazy, and then from 4 to 5 is insane. Like the level of detail and just the sandbox they created.
Yeah.
I have no idea I don't know how they can top GTA 5 at this point, like what locale, because GTA 4 was their analog of New York, and GTA 5 is LA. So I have no idea where 6 could take place, unless it's like all of America, which would be insane. I don't know. I have no concept of what a GTA 6 looks like, and I don't know that they do. I mean, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they're working on it right now, but right. I feel like it's years down the line.
Yeah, I mean, they always take forever to make these games, and I don't know if it's the type of thing where they have like different teams working on like Red Dead versus GTA. But I know that there's usually at least like 5+ years between like those big releases of those franchises. So they probably are not ready to say anything about what the next GTA game is, but we can be hopeful. I put in here BioShock 4 ? Because that is, I think it was confirmed that they were working on BioShock 4.
Yes, there was a story about that recently.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's too early to actually have anything to say about it, but that's something to potentially be looking for from them. Next up, there was Capcom is supposedly going to have some sort of show, and the only thing I could think of from them was that Pragmata game that I don't know anything about, but they had that crazy trailer for.
I was into this. I like this trailer.
Yeah, the trailer was really cool, so I'm kind of excited to see more from that game. But yeah, I don't know what else Capcom would have to show, because like Resident Evil Village already came out, and I'm not sure what else they would have to show unless they've got completely new things that we don't even know about that they want to unveil, which could be cool. But
yeah, I'm into that. I'll check that show out.
Moving on to June 15th, this is another one of the big ones. Nintendo is going to have their Nintendo Direct, 40 minutes of software, so no Switch Pro at this particular show.
Or the Switch Pro will have already been revealed, so they don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, hopefully it's already revealed at that point. The exciting thing for me is they always follow up their big like E3 show with what they call their Nintendo Treehouse Live. Now, normally this takes place, like, they have multiple days of it, but I think they said there was only going to be one day of it where they just, like, live stream for 3 hours straight. And this is where you get into sort of the nitty gritty. Like, their Nintendo Direct will just, like, sort of show some trailers and sort of touch on what they have coming up. The Treehouse Live is where you actually get to watch them play games. And so you actually get a really good look at stuff. And so I remember watching these over the last few years and really enjoying just like getting to see actual gameplay versus like a story trailer. So that's something to look forward to.
Let's talk about it. How likely do you think it is that we get a deep dive on everyone wants a deep dive on Breath of the Wild 2. It's the thing on everyone's minds. They must know that everyone wants to know more about Breath of the Wild 2. Do you think it's likely that this is the Breath of the Wild 2 E3, or do you think that it's still too far out?
I mean, I really have no idea, just because, like, yeah, they had that trailer that was sort of a teaser for it. And if they do unveil a Switch Pro, like, that would be the console seller, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on the limb and say yes, that this is going to be the Breath of the Wild 2 Nintendo Direct.
Now, don't forget, they also, at the Game Awards, they were like, hey, here's something no one wants. Skyward Sword is coming to Switch.
I forgot about that.
So they could also just do another fake out. Aonuma could come out and be like, hey, still no news.
Still no news on Breath of the Wild 2.
Here's more stuff about Skyward Sword.
Well, so the other speculation was going to be that they wait until after the launch of Skyward Sword and they do another Direct, because they probably will have at least one more Nintendo Direct before the year's over.
Well, don't forget, this is the 35th anniversary of Zelda, so they better have Zelda stuff. I mean, just having Skyward Sword, the least liked of all the Zelda games, like, that's not going to cut it. Like, they did so much for Mario's 35th last year. I feel like they have to have multiple Zelda announcements.
Well,
I feel like there's
that's
no way
what I
they
was going to say. The speculation is that they're going to do sort of a bundle, kind of like the Mario one, where they have some of the older ones remastered. That's the speculation. Who knows whether that will actually happen?
That's something I would buy. I would love to get an HD version of Ocarina of Time and play through that with my girlfriend, because that game is perfect in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and we mentioned this on a previous podcast, but like, they released Wind Waker, like a remastered version of that on the Wii U. So like, how hard would it be for them to just be like, here's a Switch version of that?
Not hard. I could in 20 minutes download an emulator and have Wind Waker playing on my computer.
Yeah.
And just like start playing. Like, it's not hard. I mean, that's basically what they did with the Mario. I think, wasn't it revealed that they used like a ROM basically for Mario 64? They didn't even do the work. They just like threw it in there.
That would not surprise me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why they couldn't do that. So I feel like it would not be hard for them to do a like Mario style bundle where they've got Wind Waker and like one of the N64 ones, and then even just like a slight remaster of A Link to the Past, you know?
Yeah. If they did the Link's Awakening treatment to
Link to the Past?
A Link to the Past,
yeah,
that would be insane, and I would buy that instantly.
Oh, so would I.
Pre-order that.
Yeah, I loved the art style they did for Link's Awakening, so if they did a Link to the Past version of that, that would be awesome. I would buy that right away.
That would be so good. Or what if they could do a crazy art style for that. They could do the same art style as they did for Link's Awakening, and I would like it. But there's so many options, and I think it's not unlikely that. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that they make a Mario Maker like they made or a Zelda Maker like they made a Mario Maker, because that's how they prototyped Breath of the Wild. Is they made a little like Mario thing where they were like, this is what was good about the first Mario game, you know, using leaves to affect the environment and like, you know, different things like mystery and whatnot. I think that a Zelda Maker is totally plausible and something that could come out and something I would check out. Especially with that Nintendo Garage where they're like making games. They're already in that mindset of like, use this console to make your own games, you know?
They sort of toyed around with that actually in Link's Awakening. Wasn't there like you could make your own dungeon and like there was
a Zelda DLC where you could have side-scrolling Zelda, like it was a power-up that Mario could pick up, and he would basically become Link and have like a sword and arrows and bombs and stuff.
No, but I mean, like, actually within the game of Link's Awakening, I thought they had like a dungeon maker mode in that game.
Oh,
that you could.
Oh, I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Because I remember watching the Treehouse Live for that year, and the developer had made a dungeon that he challenged what's his name to actually play through, and it was like a big moment for him because it was like, "You're my hero, try my level."
I hope that this is the Zelda Nintendo Direct that we've all been hoping for, because it is the 35th anniversary. But who can say? Maybe it'll just be 40 minutes of Splatoon.
Yeah, they probably will show off some Splatoon 3 because that's a thing that they've got coming up. They've also got, we're kind of hoping to see more from Pokemon Legend Arceus, however you say that. That is a game I'm excited about. They recently announced the release date, didn't they? Did
they?
Yeah, so it's launching on January 28th, 2022. So it's not coming out this year, but shortly into next year. And so I would expect to see more of that game between now and then. So we could see more of that during the Nintendo Direct, because there's still a lot of questions about that game, like how it's going to be played, just how open world is it? A lot of questions there. Bayonetta 3 ? Will we see that?
I don't know, man.
Will we see?
It's been a long time coming. I love Bayonetta 2, and I played it. That was one of the first Switch games I played, and I was very into it. But
yeah.
Metroid Prime 4, I feel like, is also something that is nebulous and we have not heard about. But wouldn't that be a crazy reveal?
That would be a crazy. What if that was their one more thing where they're like, we're back with Metroid Prime news, and here's a trailer for the changes we've made.
Now, are you familiar with the Mandela effect? Mandala?
I've heard of it. I'm not sure.
It's that thing where, like, everyone in the world remembers something a different way than it was, you know?
Yeah.
I, for a very, very long time, until like a year ago, had never seen a single frame of Donkey Kong 64 and thought it wasn't real or didn't know what it was. And then I watched, there was a speedrun of it at a Summer Games Done Quick, and it blew my mind that I didn't know this existed. Because it seems like a crazy game, and I had just never, ever seen it, or even seen like cover art for it or anything. And I see that you have put a new Donkey Kong game by the devs of Super Mario Odyssey, and that's super interesting to me, and I did not know that was in development.
Yeah, so this was a rumor that came up fairly recently. I want to say it was at some point last month, and I was excited about it because I mean, who's to say whether this is going to be like another Donkey Kong Country game, like a new Donkey Kong Country game, or whether this is going to be like a 3D Donkey Kong game in the style of Donkey Kong 64. Either way, I would be excited about it because I actually like Donkey Kong Country games. I know like some people are like, okay, we've done like the 2D side-scrolling thing, give me a 3D game. But like Donkey Kong Country on the Super NES was one of my like childhood favorites. So, and I played through Donkey Kong Country again when I got my Super NES Classic and loved it again. So I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I can also see like, okay, we've got Tropical Freeze on the Switch. Let's get a 3D one. And the fact that it's supposedly being developed by the team that made Super Mario Odyssey, like that's very exciting. And if they can take that engine that they made that game with and just like make a Donkey Kong game out of it, like that would be very cool. And I'm curious to see what they would do with it.
Is this the year where they reveal the N64 Classic?
Ooh, that would be cool. Well, they said no hardware.
You're right. That's true.
But that would be awesome.
With a reworked controller that isn't bad.
Yeah. How do you rework that controller? Because the Trident is also like iconic as well.
You don't really, unfortunately. Like I have
just make a GameCube controller.
I forget what I played through because I had an N64 emulator for the longest time. I think it was actually that Silicon Valley game, which I love and no one ever talks about. I played that with just an Xbox controller because I mapped the C buttons to the second analog stick because they basically did what the analog stick was supposed to be doing, which is like moving the camera around. But I don't know. It would have to be very game specific.
Yeah, I mean, they could just make it a GameCube controller.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the GameCube controller is just like what the N64 controller always should have been.
I agree.
It still has all the C buttons, but it's in a thumbstick version. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty exciting to me. I don't know if they're too early on making that game. Again, I don't even know that that's been confirmed. I just think it's been rumored. But it would be cool if they confirmed it and like came out with some sort of, even if it was just a teaser trailer, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, they've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. They've got a lot of stuff that they could potentially be showing. So I think the Nintendo Direct show is one of the more exciting shows to get during E3. And that's technically the last day, June 15th. Like I said, things are going to continue on beyond that.
Throughout the summer.
Right. So after the Nintendo Direct, there's also going to be Bandai Namco. They've got Scarlet Nexus, which we briefly talked about coming up. I don't know if they'll show anything for it because it is like imminent, the release of that game. And there's already a demo out that you can play. Tales of Arise. I've not played the Tales series before, but I kind of want to. I've always heard such good things about those games. It's like an anime style, like action RPG series. So it's coming out in September around the time Deathloop comes out. So, who knows? But that one's on my radar. I might pick that up and play it. The other one from Bandai Namco, Elden Ring. But
yes,
if they're,
I think that's gonna be Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, if they're doing their own show, like who knows what else they have to show? But like, will they do that during that show? Because that's sort of their big thing. Or will it go during one of the other shows?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then after that, there's supposed to be some sort of E3 award show celebrating the most anticipated games. They're not supposed to be reveals during this show. It's just sort of an awards show. Jeff Keighley likes award shows. Not a big surprise. The next day on June 16th, Steam Next Fest. So they're going to show off some games that I think that's the only show that day, so I'll probably watch it, but I don't know what to look forward to with it. On June 23rd, they're going to have some sort of Sonic Symphony Orchestra celebrating selections from 30 years of Sonic. You're more of a Sonic fan than I am. I did not grow up with that series, but do you think you'll watch that?
I don't know. I like the music of Sonic. To be honest, though, like I played a lot of Sonic on my Genesis, but I really played a lot of Sonic in college, just on an emulator. And that was a game where I would play it on mute and just listen to podcasts. So, I mean, I like the music in Sonic, but I also don't associate the music as being one of the best things.
Right.
But I would probably check this out.
Okay, and then on July 22nd is EA Play. So this is well beyond the bounds of that initial sort of...
It's crazy how late this is. I don't know why they wouldn't do it this week.
Yeah, I know. It does. I don't know why or what the reasoning is behind having it so much later, but I expect to see, of course, Battlefield 6. They're going to probably do more with that at that show.
Yeah.
Dragon Age 4 is a question mark.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I don't know.
They've been working on that for a while.
Yeah, they have been working on it for a while. I don't know how far along they are. I don't expect this game to come out this year, and it may not even come out next year. But hopefully they'll show something. There might be like a name reveal. I also put in next Mass Effect. They're definitely not going to have anything about Mass Effect, but we can always dream. And then probably a new Star Wars game or multiple new Star Wars games.
I think that's likely.
We know that there is a Knights of the Old Republic remake in the works.
Yeah.
So possibly something from that. And then we were speculating earlier about potentially a Fallen Order 2.
I could see that. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, it's well received. We talked about it earlier, but I could see that being a whole series culminating in a movie.
Yeah. They have the rights to continue making games, even though EA doesn't necessarily own like the exclusive license on Star Wars anymore.
Right.
But they will probably still be trying to cash in on Star Wars, so I can see them having multiple other games other than, Knights of the Old Republic and Fallen Order. But so I put in Battlefront 3 ? Because I know like Battlefront 2 was, of course, not great out of the gate, and they took a lot of bad press for that. But they have sort of slowly, quietly turned that whole story around. And it actually, every time I hear people talk about it now, they talk about how good it's gotten. So maybe they take the lessons learned from that and they do like a launch a new game, and it's just good from the start finally. But who's to say? EA will probably also have some sort of Apex Legends reveal, probably a next gen release, if they've not already done that.
I think that's likely. Yeah. Did you ever check out that Switch version they released of it?
I did not. I've heard that it does not look very good.
No, it doesn't look good. And also, I tried to I downloaded it. And I tried to, you can select like only play with other Switch players, and it never would load into a game because there weren't enough people playing it. And I wasn't going to do cross-platform because I didn't want to play with people on PC. Yeah,
I've heard draw distance and visibility is just not good enough to compete with crossplay. I'm curious how it's doing for them, actually, now that we're mentioning it. But
yeah, I don't know.
Probably some sort of Sims announcement, possibly The Sims 5, or just more DLC for whatever Sims is already out. Yeah. And then probably a bunch of dumb sports games and mobile game garbage that nobody cares about.
100%. I think that's very likely.
So yeah, that's always takes up a portion of EA's press conference. So the exciting stuff, Battlefield 6, Dragon Age 4, and some sort of Star Wars thing. And then what we have that is not official yet is some sort of Sony thing. We don't know what day they would do it on or if they're even going to do one, but put in here Horizon Forbidden West, even though they've already done like a gameplay stream of that. What did you think of that, by the way?
It seems fine. They have what I would refer to as the bad kind of grappling hook in that game, where you have to find grappling points to use it instead of just it being available anywhere.
Freely.
It seems fine. I never played the first one, and I've heard that it's great. Of course, we all know it all came out the day that Breath of the Wild came out, and I picked that. You went back to it, though, didn't you?
I did. I played through it. I liked it. It took me a while to get into it, honestly. I think a lot of people praised it for its story, but I found that to be one of the weaker things. Just because, like, the first, 2 hours of that game is, story setup, and it's very derivative of, teen dystopian fiction. Throw in any amalgamation of the Hunger Games and Harry Potter and whatever that movie series with...
The Maze Runner.
Yeah, the Maze Runner. What was it? Defiant or Divergent or whatever it was?
Divergent, yeah.
Just, it's any sort of combination of that, the intro of those movies where they're setting those things up, and it's just sort of that. And then it started getting good after the world opens up more and you're just able to sort of freely start exploring, and the combat is well designed, and so I liked a lot of that stuff. So I'm not super into the story of it yet. Hopefully it'll be better. It seems like it's going to take place in San Francisco from that trailer.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, because the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge seemed to be there. I don't know where that trailer was, whether this was sort of later on in the game or what. Maybe you're sort of forging a path out there. Who's to say?
Yeah, you're going to something. They open up that map at the end of the trailer, and there's a pulsing thing somewhere, and they're like, oh, we gotta go here.
So, if they do a show, there will probably be at least some sort of trailer for that, even though we've already sort of seen what we wanted to see. You think they'll announce a release date? Or are they still waiting out whether Breath of the Wild 2 is going to come out this year?
Yeah, they could be trigger shy. I could see them waiting.
Yeah, so there was a quote from the PlayStation blog this week. They did an interview with, I forget his name, but they did an interview, and he talked about the decision to delay God of War into 2022 and the fact that it is going to come out on PS4. So we probably won't see anything from God of War Ragnarok if they do a show. But
what a bummer that it's coming out on PS4.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, it's a bummer because it could probably look nicer and run better and maybe be even bigger if it was exclusive to PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
But also, like, PlayStation 5s are so hard to get. Like, what if God of War was coming out this fall, and would you have to, like, scramble to try to figure out how to get one? Or
yeah. Basically, I'd probably I'd do what you did and, like, start looking at, like, Twitter streams and stuff and trying to figure out when they're available, like when the drops are.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, but so I mean, I kind of get it for, like, they still have a large player base on PS4, and just based on, like, when development probably started for that, it probably did start as a PS4 game, and then they're like, we can make this as a PS5 game. So there's that. But the quote from the PlayStation blog was that, I'll just read it. So we currently have two very big, very narrative-driven games in development, Horizon Forbidden West and the next God of War. And for both of those, they're frankly affected by access to performance capture and talent. For Horizon, we think we're on track to release this holiday season, but that isn't quite certain yet, and we're working as hard as we can to confirm that to you as soon as we can. And for God of War, the project started a little later, so we've made the decision to push that game out to next year to ensure that Santa Monica Studio can deliver the amazing God of War game that we all want to play. So, obviously, God of War not coming out this year. They are targeting a holiday season release for Horizon, but it's possible that could slip into next year.
Yeah.
I also, part of me wonders if Breath of the Wild, if Nintendo does a thing and they're like, all right, Breath of the Wild coming out November, if they just like immediately do, okay, we've got a direct ready to go. We chose the one that says Horizon Forbidden West coming out 2022. Just to sort of escape the problem that they had that you already alluded to of that game coming out within like a week or two of Breath of the Wild and everybody playing Breath of the Wild and skipping over Horizon Zero Dawn. But so that'll be exciting to see what happens there. They've got some other games as well. Lost Judgment is a game that we know is happening. This is either a sequel or just another game in that Judgment series, which was like a spin-off of the Yakuza series. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So I think they're doing another one of those, which will be cool. That Judgment game came out on Stadia and got a next-gen release as well earlier this year. So you can tell that they are getting people to remember that game and that series before they launch a new game. Ghostwire Tokyo, I feel like they had a trailer for that game like a year or two ago that looked really cool to me.
Yeah, it's like first person and it looked crazy.
So I'm excited to see more of that game. I anticipate that game probably is not too far out, either later this year. I mean, even I can see if they did a state of play that like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo would be like their two big things. Yeah. But they also have Final Fantasy 16. We already talked about that a little bit. Could take place at the Square Enix press conference, so maybe not for Sony. The Forspoken game, we talked about that as well. And then there's this Kenna Bridge of Spirits game that I had no idea about, but it's there. They did a gameplay trailer for that somewhat recently, and it actually does look kind of good. Could be a solid game. It's not necessarily on my radar just yet, but I don't know. Sony is a big question mark.
Yeah, I really don't know what they're going to do this summer.
Or if they do anything at all.
Yeah. So do you have any overarching... You wanted to talk about that Destiny 2 prediction. Do you have any overarching predictions for E3 overall?
Let me see what so my prediction is just for Starfield is what everybody's already been saying, is that there will be a look at Starfield during the Microsoft press conference, but that it is not coming out until late 2022.
I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah. My other prediction was that Halo Infinite was gonna get like a big thing during the Microsoft press conference, and that it will come out this year. I might be wrong about that, but that's my guess. And then my other thing was that their Bungie, instead of talking about more Destiny 2 content, they will reveal a new game that is not Destiny.
Ooh, they are working on another IP. That is, they have said that.
Yes, and so my prediction is that game will be shown probably at somebody else's press conference, maybe not at a Bungie-specific press conference, but that they will actually reveal the new game they're working on.
That's interesting.
And the speculation has been, I don't know if this was like a rumor or what, but I seem to recall hearing that their game might be like a hero shooter.
Oh,
yeah,
that's weird.
Which, yeah, that was my response as well. Like, oh, okay. But how interested would you be in something like that?
I mean, they know how to make good shooters, but I don't know how into competitive stuff I am these days.
Yeah.
Like, every once in a while, I'll pick up Apex again, or like load up a game of PUBG and play like 2 or 3 rounds, but I don't know. I don't know how into that. I have not played Overwatch in a very long time, and that's like the best hero shooter.
Yeah. I mean, I like Overwatch quite a bit, and I do from time to time dip back into that game and get into it for a little while. But I don't play it like hardcore or anything. I'm not like constantly playing it. And Destiny's PvP has been not good. At least in my opinion, for a very long time.
I agree with that.
And I did not get the previous DLC they launched, I think last year. I don't even remember what it was called. And it was the first one I skipped since way back in the Destiny 1 days. Yeah, actually, I've gotten all of them since Destiny 1. And I skipped this one, and I don't know if it was just because I'm like, I think maybe my time with Destiny is done, or if it was
me as well,
or if it was more that I saw the inevitable backlash from the whole freeze mechanic coming, and was like, I want no part of that at all, and so I just skipped out on it completely. And lo and behold, it has been like a major thorn in their side. In the months since they released that, to the point where they did like I heard they did a massive nerf on all the like freeze stuff.
Yeah, it became too much it just became too much.
It did.
Like, Destiny 1 was pure in a lot of ways, and The Taken King was probably the best Destiny has ever been. And unfortunately, Destiny 2 had a lot of missteps, and they somewhat corrected them, but I don't know. It's just too much. They almost need to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, and I would be more curious to see what a like solo single player story driven game from them would be like, even if it was in like the Destiny universe.
That is interesting to me. A single player Destiny game, that actually sets my brain on fire, Zach.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I would like to see from them, but I feel like they will not do that. No. Because I feel like they're more multiplayer PvP focused at this point, and that they've sort of struggled with storytelling for long enough that they're like, this is not our strength. Maybe we just need to make a multiplayer game.
Unfortunately, that's probably true.
So I think those were the only... I didn't come up with very many predictions, and the ones I did come up with were fairly safe. Did you have anything wild?
We talked about, we got to some of the ones. I have a crazy one. Because they are making that Perfect Dark game, I don't think it's crazy to say that maybe there's some other rare properties that pop up. I don't think it's crazy to say that we might get a Banjo-Kazooie sequel.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, Sony has their Ratchet and Clank, but like you said, Xbox doesn't have any exclusives right now, and a Banjo-Kazooie game would be great. Everyone wants a Banjo. Like, people were freaking out when he came to Smash.
Yeah. Sadly, like, people getting super excited and worked up over stuff being added to Smash has not translated into actual, like, ooh, there's hype for this. Let's release a game.
Yeah.
Because we would probably have Earthbound all over the place now if that was the case.
That's true. That was my craziest one that we haven't already gotten to. A Banjo-Kazooie game, or my hope of hopes would be a Conker's Bad Fur Day sequel would be insane and never going to happen. But I loved that game as a kid.
I never played that one.
That is one that actually translates very well to an emulator with an Xbox controller. And I would highly recommend. And they also made a refresh of it, an HD version for Xbox 360, but that's not as good because they censored a lot of it. So you should try to get the N64 one.
Well, I think that's all the stuff from E3 that we know about, at least for now.
We're going to be covering the conferences though, so we'll have little recaps after we're gonna watch those conferences, and we're gonna recap what happens. And so there's gonna be a lot of content in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so follow our YouTube channel for sure. I think that's where most of it will go. Maybe we'll put our recaps into the podcast feed as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'm excited for it. It's gonna be fun.
But we will be boots on the ground, looking forward to all this stuff. Making some content.
Yes. So follow our YouTube channel. Just search for Starside Cafe there, or it'll be in the description of this podcast. Also, you can go to starsidecafe.com and find everything there as well. And do you have any parting wisdom?
Yes. My parting wisdom is that everyone should watch these press conferences.
That's some solid wisdom, and I think I will take you up on that.
All right, well, we will catch you guys next week when the action starts to happen.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.